Hello and welcome. This is Social Studies, Voices Across America. I'm Bill Wood.
And I'm Peter Goldsmith.
Today we're looking forward, Peter, to a great conversation with teacher and mentor Barbara Bijou. She considers herself a spiritual life coach. Barbara, welcome.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Barbara and Peter are very close friends. I've been eavesdropping on their conversation before we got started. She's a former television and fashion executive who left her corporate career nearly 20 years ago when she realized her larger calling was to help people. And that comes from world travels and extensive work with gurus and spiritual masters. Right off the top, Barbara, gurus and spiritual masters sounds a bit mystical, is it?
It's actually not mystical at all. I mean, you're probably a spiritual teacher, right? Peter definitely is a spiritual teacher. You both could be my gurus. So it's really someone who's mastered something in life and then is teaching it and sharing it.
That's good. That's good.
You know, Barbara, one of the things that, and again, as Bill said, you and I have known each other for a good long time and we're good friends. And it's wonderful to see you again, first of all, even though it's virtual, I guess. But one of the things I know that you're really involved in, and you do this all over the world, is ritual.
Yes.
Talk a little bit to those of us listening who may not know exactly what ritual means.
You know, the actual word comes from the Indo-European word, which means fit together. So it's how do you take the time to literally just stop and honor where you are and what's going on and bring it from kind of a mundane just thing that you're doing to something that's more sacred and special. So, for example, last week there was a new theater opening in New York, the MCC Theater, and I did the opening ritual to bless the space. You know, I'll do a wedding. Everybody knows a wedding is a ritual, a graduation, a bar mitzvah, confirmation, you know, all of that. But we don't take the time to have your morning tea be a ritual of connection or do a friendship ritual. I'm going to be doing an anniversary ritual for a couple who celebrated 45 years, you know, being married. So all of those things are very real and very grounded. And we have to kind of throw out the idea that ritual is a weird word, because it's not. It's very meaningful.
I always think of holidays as rituals, whether it's Passover or Christmas or Kwanzaa or the Buddha's birthday or whatever it happens to be. That to me is a ritual as well. And the celebration then infuses that with sacredness. Is that something you might agree with?
Yes, as long as you take a time to really honor it as something sacred. How many times have you been to a Thanksgiving or a Passover or Christmas that was really just about the food and the presents versus the fact of taking a moment to honor what it truly represents on a deeper level? For me, Thanksgiving has always been a ritual of having my family come together, and I do something simple. I have a plate of lights, and everybody lights a tea light and says what they're thankful and grateful for in their life. Basic, simple, a 2-year-old can do it, and yet without it, our Thanksgiving is not as meaningful.
Barbara, let me jump in here. If we were to go to your website, barbarabijou.com, would we find some practices or things that would help us in, one, understanding ritual, and two, incorporating ritual into our life?
Absolutely. I have over 50 videos for people to watch. I have a lot of blogs and information. Yes, it's just chock full of information on how to make everyday life more sacred and meaningful.
So for me, there is one thing that people that have watched our podcast have known, that I have moved after 50 years of living in Los Angeles. I've moved back home to Columbus, Ohio. There's some stress involved in that. How can ritual help me in alleviating some of that stress?
Well, part of the reason people feel stress is that they're not in the present moment. You know, you're only stressed out if you're worrying about the future, obsessing about the past. So by taking a moment to really say goodbye. And if I had known this before, I would have done a ritual with you to literally say goodbye to your old home, which you still can do. So just by honoring, what did you get from it? What was the learning, the teaching, what are you grateful for? Saying goodbye, and then setting intention now for your new place. What do you want this to be about for you? And that makes a huge difference in being able to ground your intentionality and look and make where you're living now a place that's going to be, a support for you moving forward. How do you want to change it?
The things that you've mentioned there, some people would say the weather is the overriding issue. It's hot in the summer and cold in the winter. But it sounds like weather in the top 5 would be 4 or 5. There are several other things that people who are experiencing movement or relocation, there's a lot of things that go into it besides just how am I going to deal with this new weather.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll give you another example. My mother, at the age of 80, a couple of years after my dad passed, got a new boyfriend, was in a relationship, and they decided to move in together. So my brother called me up and he said, okay, ritual lady, what are we going to do? And I said, here are these 2 80-year-olds from Long Island, Jewish, who were very conservative. And I said, okay, let me think of something to do. We flew down to Florida and I bought a picture frame with both their names engraved. I got 2 champagne glasses, a bottle of champagne. And I said to my brother, let's make this a welcome to our family ritual. And literally, we just opened the champagne and we welcomed into our family. And it was super simple. And I have to tell you, for years and years and years after that, he would come up to me and thank me. And he told me it's the first time he ever really felt a part of our family, is when we took the time and effort just to do that simple ritual. So you can have something at your new home with your friends, your family, and have them come and dedicate this space to friendship, to health, to whatever you want it to be. And it doesn't have to be a, quote, mystical experience. It's the fact of taking that time of coming together to do that ritual will change it totally. You'll feel very different.
No, Barbara, I know that, and you brought it up before when you said, ritual is not some mystical thing. It may have mystical elements to it if you so desire.
Absolutely.
But it's really about exposing yourself to the universe and asking the universe to care for you.
Right.
And I know that you, beside doing personal stuff with single people and different people, you also do corporate stuff. And that interests me as well, that a corporation will actually bring you in and ask you to spend a day or whatever it is you spend teaching ritual and stress reduction on a large scale. How does that work? How do you go about that?
Well, first of all, you have to talk in their language. So, I'm not going to sit and talk about energetic flow. I might talk about how that affects the neurons in your brain. It changes your brain and you can become more productive. How appreciation among workers creates more productivity. When people are happy at work and feel appreciated, they're more loyal. So you have to kind of structure it into their language. Yet I'm finding more and more now, because of yoga and meditation being so mainstream, that I actually can talk about that with them. And we can, do some techniques that calm them down. And they feel instantly how they're calm. So that will help, because they're also stressed out and, running like, chickens, running around with their heads cut off. The other thing is to imagine if you worked in a company where you would start off the day with a 5-minute ritual of the setting intention for what your meeting is and appreciating the people who are in your team. Immediately, you're stronger. So again, it's coming from the same way I would do it for you personally. Maybe I'd use different terminology with you. Maybe we'd light a candle for you or light incense. For them, I may not do that. Although I do have aromatherapy sprays that they love. I have to say, everybody's into aromatherapy nowadays. Again, it's like very commonplace, just like they're all doing yoga. So
it's kind of wonderful, though, actually, isn't it?
Yes.
That this has become mainstream, so people can take the benefits of it, and people really can You know, I always think, as you know, my son's an acupuncturist.
Right.
And people say, well, it's alternative medicine. And my answer is no. Holistic medicine is the original medicine.
That's right.
The Western medicine is the alternative to that.
Exactly.
If it didn't work, it wouldn't be around for 1,000 years. So obviously there is benefit to this.
Right. And also people like Arianna Huffington have come out and talked about the benefits of meditation, spirituality. A lot of CEOs are coming out and saying they meditate, they do things. So that's also made a big difference when you hear a Richard Branson or somebody who's a billionaire talks about how this is helping them in their life, then people are more on board.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You said something before about stress, which I think is really interesting, and it's interesting for our audience too. The answer to avoiding stress is probably being able to, if you can, live in the moment and not worry about the past or predict the future. How do you get to that point in the things that you teach?
First of all, I start very simply by teaching people like a simple technique to just calm down. So I'll teach you my favorite one. I might have taught you, I don't know. It's super simple. I teach it in corporations. It doesn't matter. So if something suddenly is pushing your button and you're getting nervous, so what I have people do is you make circles in the palm of your hand, very simply, while silently counting like 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, 63, 72, 81, 90. That took about 6 seconds. And what it did is it brought you back to your center. Why? Because under stress, the blood is draining from your hands, your feet, going to your heart to give you that extra adrenaline you need. Also, your body is pumping out all kinds of stress hormones, and you don't have access to the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that makes good decisions. So the counting accesses the prefrontal cortex, and the making circles in your hand is bringing blood back, a blood flow back to your physical body. So simply, when people see that that can work in 6 or 8 seconds, they're suddenly going, wow, I feel better. I'm more alert. I'm clearer. I'm calmer. And you start them slowly. And then, as you know, since we did momentary meditations together 1 million years ago, or DVD, then you could take them to bigger, longer meditation practices or yoga or qigong or something else. But something like that, anyone can learn. Your grandchildren could do it before if they're nervous going to school to have a test. I've taught it to lawyers who are taking the LSATs. It works for everybody. It's really simple. So that's my starting place, something they could relate to and they can immediately feel a difference.
Let me jump in here a second.
Go ahead, Bill, jump.
Sorry. You mentioned grandchildren. So kids nowadays have massive issues from peer pressures to pressures in school and so forth. That sounds like something that they could do and could understand and possibly gain some benefit from if they're stressed out during a test or they're on the playground or wherever. So my 11-year-old granddaughter could gain from that.
Yeah, I teach it to people to teach to their kids, absolutely. And kids love it. Kids are like sponges, as you all know. They're way ahead of us in, everything.
Totally.
So you teach them, you tell them this works, and boom, they try it. And kids are doing mindfulness now in 2nd grade. They're doing mindful meditation. They're learning how to do deep breathing. They understand this when they're starting young, which I hope they're all going to start young. I guess that's part of the beauty of us being older, is that we know this works enough that we could say with confidence to a kid, do it, it works. And they try it and it works. And we're starting them younger now, which is great.
Yeah. And again, I think that the society as a whole is looking for that, is looking for a release. Because we all understand the stress is just overwhelming.
It's totally overwhelming.
Mentally, every way. And there was some way that we could click into that. And as you say, so simple, he just showed us.
Right.
I don't know if I can count by 9.
So count by 5. The thing is, the more involved the counting, the faster it works. You could do it by 1. You could do it by 2.
But if you do
the more you have to think about it, then the
It takes your mind
faster.
away from something
Exactly.
else.
It's like doing
Yeah.
a math problem or something,
Yeah.
crossword.
Right.
So, but the other thing that you said that's so true is like, you know, how do you look at all the chaos in the world and not become it? That's a big question right now.
That was
And
my
for
next
me,
question to you. How do you do that?
I mean, this year for me is the energy of the pattern breaker with all the chaos in the world. And I don't remember a time that there was quite this much chaos, to be honest.
Mhm.
I think it's a good thing in the sense that it's woken us all up. We're waking up and we see what's not working. And it's all come up. It's like being on a fast and your face breaks out at first, you know. You get to see all the junk. So there's a lot of junk for us to look at right now. And it's where can you put your energy and not get distracted? That's part of the problem. We're getting very distracted. It's overwhelm right now. So one of the things that you need to do is, you know, fast from too much social media, fast from TV, fast from the news. Otherwise, you'll be crazy. You'll be totally insane. And then take small structured action towards having something that you want to create. And I think at this point, we all, I don't care how old we are, need to do something to make the world better. We are the ancestors of the future.
Right.
We really are. And we have to look at ourselves as ancestors of the future. And I don't care if you do it for 10 minutes a day, but we have to do something every day. Make that your ritual of contributing to the world, of caring. And when you have that focus, then it's not focused on you. You know, it's like, who was it? Eleanor Roosevelt always said the best thing to do when you're depressed is help somebody else.
Yeah.
So focus on making a difference. Don't just focus on how nervous you're feeling.
Yeah, you know, it's good that you say that because many of us listening right now are in our 60s or 70s or older, or whatever. And we are the guardians of that wisdom.
That's
because
right.
we've lived through that wisdom. We've dedicated our lives in part to that wisdom. So we are the elders now, and it's our responsibility. I don't even believe it's a choice that we have. I think it's your responsibility to reach out and make this world better.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, who will?
Right.
You know, and if you lead by example, the old adage,
right.
You know, I can tell you till I'm blue in the face and you're deaf in the ears about what I think. But if I show you something and you like it, you'll go in that way. So I think that's really important for us to do. And that's why I asked you about ritual and stress reduction things, because I think that majority of people involved in Western culture, and I think there's a great divide between Eastern and Western, don't relate to simple things like Christmas or Passover as an important ritual in your life, or your birthday as a passage of something and an entrance into something else. Right. And I think those are really significant things that we can concentrate on. I mean, to me, it seems logical.
Yeah, no, me too. And that's why, I mean, I even have a women's group that meets on the new moon every month, just because for me, every 28 days, it gives people a chance to stop, to go in, to look at what the last 28 days was about, to set intention for the next one. And it stops them enough to see what's working, what isn't working. And it's a ritual of really stopping. So it doesn't matter if it's Shabbat dinner or going to church on Sunday or celebrating, you know, the birthday or day a kid was adopted or whatever it is. But we need to stop. We really need to stop. One of my favorite rituals, it was actually a Japanese ritual. It was called Good Riddance Day at the end of the year. You know, that you like get rid of everything. And you know me, I love to burn things. So one of my rituals, if I get too stressed out, is I write everything I'm really stressed out about on a piece of paper, and then I set it on fire. I burn it safely, but I burn it. And that gives me great satisfaction that I let it go. And the truth is, from a neuroscience perspective, your brain reads it as real. So if you're stressed, you write it down, you rip it up, you throw it out, whatever, your brain reads it as it's over. And at least for that moment, you have space left in your brain. There's an opening. So, you know, it's like creating those business rituals, those personal rituals to give you the support and the strength that you need to stop and then pivot. And I think that is really, really crucial right now. Yeah, and storytelling. I love that you're doing this because that's the oldest ritual in the world is storytelling.
Right. And I think that's what I was saying before. That's where the knowledge is passed down.
Right.
That's where, in a setting of convenience and comfort and casuality and trust, storytelling really enters in there and becomes really a part of your life. And you live those stories. You live those Aesop's fables.
So really stories, though, not, what do you call it?
See
not telling people what to do.
See how busy you are?
I know. I thought I turned off my phone. It's a question of how do you, though, share the knowledge through storytelling and not through do this, do that. Because people learn so much more when they hear our stories and they go, wow, you really did that? You lived through that? That's why Oprah is so famous. People love the stories. And at this stage of our lives, we all have great stories that are real.
Yeah.
And we've lived through things that they're only seeing now in TV or in the movies or hearing about, but we lived through it. Yeah. I have friends who traveled with the Rolling Stones. I met the Beatles when they were starting. They look at you and they go, really? And then you tell them your story and then they're like, wow, well, if you did that, then I could do that. So I think we have to dig out those old stories too of our failures as well as our successes because we're still around.
Yeah.
How did we get through it?
And I like the idea of bringing out our failures as well, because I think that people, especially our children, need to know that we're not perfect, that we sure did screw up a lot.
Right.
And we landed on our feet because we believed in something and followed it through. And failure is not a permanent condition.
Right. Yes.
And we often believe that, and it's not. Mm-hmm. It's a bump in the road.
It's a bump in the road. Yeah, totally.
We're talking with spiritual life coach Barbara Bijou, barbarabijou.com. She has 2 books, The Joy of Ritual and The Joy of Family Rituals. She calls her work ritual fusion. I love that term. She works with some of the world's largest corporations as well as ordinary people. Barbara Bijou lives in New York City and works around the world. My mind was wandering while the two of you were in that exchange, and I didn't want to interrupt you. One thing that might be, I don't know how dangerous this is to bring it up, but you talk so casually about women coming together, I think you said in the new moon. Mm-hmm. Is that something that is more difficult for men, or is that something that you just happen to have that experience with women?
So in the Jewish tradition, there's something called Rosh Chodesh, which is the women's new moon, and it's that whole idea of the red tent where women would come together during their menstruation times, and it was their kind of time off. We're going back a very long time ago when we lived in the desert. We were not like today. And for me, because I teach, I'm an interfaith person, I wanted to incorporate different religions and people. So for me, it was easier just to start with that and expand it out to all women. So that's why I started. I have men who want to come, but it doesn't matter. I know a lot of men who have men's groups, or they meet on, just say, the full moon. It doesn't have to. It could be the first Monday of the month. It's just the idea. For me, I like using things like the equinoxes and the solstices and events that are, connected for me, that have a deeper meaning. Because it really talks about the cycles of life.
Is it easier to do this men with men and women with women? Do you find the same sort of ritual or sharing that happens in a...
Honestly, no. I do groups that are men and women, and I do only women. And I find there's some women who feel safer sharing just with women. Unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and people need to find safe spaces. But I've been in mixed groups where people felt very safe to share too. But you have to create that safety. You have to create that container where it's safe to, know that no one's going to judge you, and you could just be there sharing as little or as much as you want.
I've always thought about this. I always think that there are many religions, and in Orthodox Jewry, as you know, men and women don't sit together.
Right.
And people always have, well, why don't they sit together? One is as good as the other. Well, in my feeling, it has to do with energy. men have yang energy by nature and women have yin energy by nature. Not saying we don't cross over and both have both. But I think that a woman's group that is pure yin has a lot different relationship to the universe than men do with pure yang. And I think that's one of the reasons that the elders realized centuries ago, millennia ago, that they were separated, not because one was better or worse, because the energies were different. And intermingling the energies makes it impure energy and harder to transcend the mundane and go into a, I don't know, you can use mystical, whatever term you want, place. Right. And I just wonder, do you think in that way at all?
It's interesting with what's going on in the world and the fluidity of, genders and everything now, because that has changed things for sure.
Right.
But, so that's a whole other conversation. I don't even think we should open that one up yet. So we're not going to go there. But yes, I do think that in general, it's a more yin energy when women are coming together. Although, when you're looking at the brain, 20% of all women have men's brains and 20% of all men have female brains. So how does that affect the energy? It probably does, actually.
Yeah.
But yes, you could feel a difference for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think women, because of the energy, are far more accepting. And we're talking generalities.
Yes, totally.
We're not talking in broad strokes. We are talking broad strokes. So, that's just interesting stuff to think about, and think about where is our place in the universe.
Right.
And I think that's really what we're talking about today. Where is your place in the universe? Where do you succeed? And where can you be of use to the universe? And the things that you're talking about, I think, allow us to get to that place, or hopefully allow us to get to that place.
And I'm finding, too, that in the rituals that I'm doing, there's more multi-generational energy coming in. And I love that. I love being in a circle with somebody who's 80 and somebody who's 22. Because we all learn from each other. And that's the beauty of all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Bill, I think we're getting close to time. Am I right, my friend?
Yeah, we're getting close. I've turned this into my own personal seminar, Barbara.
Oh, good.
And
so you could just send the check to Barbara.
Exactly. Trying to learn a little bit here.
I want to see pictures of your house blessing that you're going to do. Yeah.
As you've been talking this past half hour, I've understood that ritual is a way of identifying something that is intentional and moving in a direction to solve an issue, whether it's stress or safety or just communication between individuals, or just resolving with rubbing your hands like you demonstrated earlier. Barbara Brishu, BarbaraBrishu.com. Let's see, what are the books again? The books are The Joy of Ritual and The Joy of Family Rituals. And again, we're talking about much more than family dinner at Thanksgiving. We're talking about things that will help solve problems in your life. And what we've tried to specialize in today was stress reduction, which is something that is in everybody's life. On a scale of 1 to 10, we've been at like 12 for the last 10 years or more. And certainly that's been, the rheostat has been turning up as we go along.
Barbara, wonderful to see you as always, my dear friend. It's so great.
Pleasure.
It's been too long. It really has. And you are wonderful. Barbara is really a very special person. I don't know how much of that, I'm sure some came through in this little few-minute talk that we had. But again, go to Barbara's website. It's wonderful. And I guess this is okay to say, if Barbara lives in New York a good part of the year, if you're in New York, get involved with Barbara and go sit one-on-one with her, and it will really make your life a lot better. I have for years done it, and so I know for a fact. So she's
Thank
great.
you.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Barbara Brishu, thank you. BarbaraBrishu.com. The Joy of Ritual is one of her books. And so until we see each other again, take care of each other and respect each other.
Peace.
Peace.
You can get this podcast. You can tell someone else about this podcast. It's available through YouTube, through iTunes, and through Google Play. Let's hear from you. Let us know what you think so that we can be in community with you. And there is a way to contact us. That's at peter@agnetuslife.com or bill@agnetuslife.com. That's our email addresses. Let's hear from you. Let's open up the forum.